Good evening, people of Canada. I'm here reporting on the ongoing conflict in Crimea following the Russian annexation of this disputed piece of land. However, today we're going to focus on the United Nations and how they've been responding to this pandemonium. Let's shift over to our special guest, Kofi Annan, the former Secretary of the UN. Kofi, before we head into the Crimea situation, tell us a bit about your organization.
Thank you, Bill, for the introduction. As many may know, the United Nations is an international organization that works to promote humanitarian aid and peacekeeping around the globe. This includes ending worldwide poverty, hunger, and helping refugees in war-torn countries. In addition to our humanitarian aid, part of our ideals is to also improve our climate, upbringing women's rights, and to also work as a judicial body for international affairs. To sum things up, our goal as the United Nations is to simply work together to make the world a safer and better place.
If you wouldn't mind telling us, could you give us a bit of history behind your organization?
Of course I can. On the day of January 1st, 1942, the name United Nations was first brought up by U.S. President Franklin Roosevelt after the declaration of 26 nations who pledged to fight against the Axis powers such as Japan, Italy, and Germany during World War II. Following the Second World War, on October 24, 1945, 50 nations formed together in their first historic meeting in San Francisco in hopes of creating a ground set of laws that all nations part of this pact would abide by, to make sure such problems such as warfare would never happen again. At the same time, these government bodies also wished to look at worldwide problems around the world, such as poverty, as said before. After discussing many laws and issues these countries want to tackle as a whole, they finally created the Universal Charter of Human Rights on June 26th of that same year. As of this day, there are about triple the amount of countries there were back then, and our involvement has been increased to the point we are now known globally.
That is indeed interesting to know. However, could you tell us a bit more about what exactly the UN does for the world through some examples?
Well, you see, Bill, over the last few decades or so, the UN has taken part in many eventful situations to help people in desperate need. For instance, during the mid-1960s, a 13-year effort between the UN and the World Health Organization worked to completely eradicate smallpox from our planet. In the 1980s, smallpox was officially wiped from the earth, saving a total of $1 billion a year in treating and monitoring vaccinations. In addition to serving the world's population health-wise, the UN has also had many contributions with humanitarian aid. Examples could include raising billions each year to provide assistance to disaster victims through the Red and Blue Cross. Examples could include the earthquake in Haiti. In Palestine, the UN has raised approximately $5 billion as they still work to provide services to millions of war refugees in Palestine and neighboring areas. Lastly, another ongoing initiative that the UN is a part of would be the infamous problem rising in Crimea. Solutions to this case still haven't risen yet, but let me assure you, the UN is still on it.
Very interesting for you to mention that. We were just heading there. Crimea is currently facing some troubling times, and there are fingers being pointed in every direction. We will now head over to Ukraine and have everyone see just exactly what the situation is like. Let's go to our reporter, Jack, for more details on this matter.
Thank you, Bill. I am reporting outside the scenes of a turmoil-filled Crimea in Kiev, Ukraine. On March 18th, Crimea had been annexed by Russia after a referendum took place in which the citizens chose to leave Ukraine or to enter Russian rule. However, there has been a lot of controversy over this almost forceful takeover for Russia. So the UN took matters into their own hands as they had a vote to decide what would happen in regards to the annexation of Crimea. The official results came out recently showing 100 member states voting for Crimea to stay a part of the Ukraine and claiming the referendum was invalid, while 11 member states voted against the resolution. Despite these results, it has come to our knowledge that Russia has claimed a veto on this resolution and will keep their forces stationed in the peninsula. As of now, the crisis and turmoil in Crimea has begun to spike as violent protests are occurring all over the state. Furthermore, there have been many protests in eastern Ukraine, while citizens are furious over the fact that they let pro-Russian President Yanukovych let this all happen. I am now here with the anti-separatist Vlad, a citizen of Kiev, to learn more about what's going on here and his views on the actions in Crimea. Oh, Vlad, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Let's take a seat. What do you think of the UN and their actions and efforts to help Crimea? Do you think they have taken the right steps, or have they done something wrong?
I feel as though United Nations has been powerless in this whole situation. They're supposed to be a global law enforcer, but they haven't done anything to help Ukraine keep Crimea. Yes, they made a resolution, however that hasn't seemed to stop Russia from taking Crimea. Little action is being used by them, even though they regulate world affairs and laws. Russia has broken several of the laws and treaties, but nothing has happened. I wish for Crimea to stay a part of Ukraine, for this annexation is against all international law, yet it seems as if our enforcer, regardless of how recognized it is, has no power in the end.
Thank you, Jack and Vlad, for your time. Now that we've heard from both the UN and a citizen of Crimea, we can hopefully answer a few questions that have been floating around. The United Nations is without a doubt one of the most important organizations in this world. After World War II, when the world was devastated, the UN stepped up and gave relief to the many countries that were faced with the harsh reality of the aftermath. Furthermore, the United Nations has a great influence on the entire world, seeing that they also provide humanitarian aid to countries that are in need. However, that does not necessarily mean that they are not a subject of criticism. Many of the world's smaller countries shun the UN for being elitist and having only wealthy countries. Furthermore, there have been times where the ideals of the UN were also questioned on multiple occasions, such as their pro-abortion ideology. All in all, however, the United Nations is here for the better. I'm Bill Watchman, and you're watching 24N News.